Some people are not grateful when you help them. They become comfortable with you helping them, and then they start to expect it. And then they become resentful when the help stops. Now, if you're someone that gives a lot, this video is for you, and if you haven't subscribed to me, please do. You help, it becomes normal. Normal becomes expected. Expected becomes owed. Ugh. And then owed becomes, how dare did you stop? I think a lot of us have had the experience where we do a lot for somebody, and then we stop helping them because they're not reciprocating. There's a fallout, whatever it is. And then they start to treat you like your help was like an obligation, and you're sitting there like, I never owed you any of this. I did it because I was nice. And they become angry with you, and you're sitting there confused. Don't ever let this person twist that for you. If you didn't owe them anything, there wasn't some signed business contract, just know that your boundaries are still acceptable. I feel like in these moments, sometimes we second guess ourselves. We're like, oh, am I being too harsh? Am I being mean? Because the person reacts so badly, you're just like, what did I do? And I feel like a lot of us good people that try our best to reciprocate and give in relationships, we're a little bit more sensitive to this because we're aware of ourselves and maybe our shortcomings in some ways. And unfortunately, people who are toxic, they prey on that pretty good. Also, sometimes these people will use the excuse, well, you should have said no. And that's how they justify totally using and exploiting you. And yeah, to be fair, your boundaries are kind of your responsibility. You should say no. If you don't know how to do that, work on that piece. But I also feel like it conveniently ignores some of the emotional pressure that can be involved. Sometimes it's not as easy being like, no, I'm not going to help you organize all of your stuff. It's guilt. There's family pressure involved. Fear of being selfish. I know a lot of us, we don't want to be seen as selfish. Maybe we hope that it will repair the relationship or make people like us more. Hope that other person will finally appreciate us. Or maybe we worry if we say no that the person will punish us or rage at us or abandon us, and we don't want that. So when the taker says, you should have said no, well, could I? Could I have said no? Not always. Sometimes that person knows what they're doing and they actually created an environment where saying no actually did come with consequences, but they pretend that you had total freedom. And oftentimes, the person that's taking from us, they didn't just take one time. You didn't just help them one time for a couple of hours. They took repeated help. And when someone sits there and accepts help over and over and over again, they are participating in the imbalance, especially if they're not reciprocating. And I always emphasize this in my videos. Sometimes what one person can give is smaller than what another person can give. But you should be reasonably expecting them to reciprocate within reason and within what they can reasonably handle. Obviously, someone with $2,000 can give you $1 easier than someone who only has $10. And sometimes these people will pretend they don't know. They don't know how much money you spent on them, how much time, how much labor, all of that. Because it's not in their best interest to pay attention to the tab. Because you've done all these things for them, they only did one or two small things for you that doesn't even scrape the surface. So if they say something like, well, you should have said no, they're basically saying, I could see that you were useful, but I kept using that until you stopped me. And any reasonable person within reason is going to start noticing an imbalance. I used to work for this guy, nicest guy ever. I absolutely adore him. He's a wonderful person. But I noticed early on that there was a few times I would ask for something from him and he would say yes. So I'd be happy, I'd take it, and I would go, usually it would be going home early or something. And then I found out later that he got in trouble with his boss for letting me go home early. And I felt so bad. It's like, dude, if you're going to get in trouble, don't say yes. I don't want you in trouble. But then I started realizing that, okay, this guy does not know how to say no. So I stopped asking him if I could go home early. If there was other little things I needed his help with or whatever, I'd still ask. But when it came to that specifically, I would ask, his boss first to make sure it was okay because I didn't want him to get in trouble. But again, you should be a reasonable person will pay attention to those little things. And yes, sometimes there's a little imbalance there because we may not notice initially. But you should care enough about other people to notice. So when users say something like, well, you should have said no, but they've taken repeated help, oftentimes they do know that there's an imbalance there. They just don't care because it doesn't benefit them enough to care. And I know that's harsh. Because even when someone says yes, you should still care about whether you're asking for too much. Emotionally decent person, they often check in, offer something back, show some appreciation. That goes a long way. And they do not punish the person when the help ends.